Welcome to Everything's Not Black and White with your hosts, Lala and Brian.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. We're so glad you're here. Today, we're going to be diving into a conversation that goes well beyond buying and selling homes. We're going to be talking about decision-making, the systems, and the truth that real estate isn't as neutral as we've been taught to believe. So joining us today is Lauren Goché, who is a principal real estate broker, a thoughtful disruptor, and someone who describes herself as part therapist, part hype squad, and part witch with Wi-Fi. Welcome, Lauren, to the show. Hey, Lauren.
Thank you so much, LaChandra. I so appreciate you having me on.
Oh, we're so excited to chat with you. So anybody who describes themselves as a witch with Wi-Fi has already won that in my book, right? So I really love that. So I would love to ask, when you describe yourselves as those things, right? Part therapist, part hype squad, part witch with a Wi-Fi, like where did that identity come from?
I think it's, the therapist part is real. Buying and selling is big stuff, and, finances and money brings up all kinds of stuff. So I'm constantly therapizing. Is that a word? I'm going to use it as a word.
We can make up stuff. We make stuff up here, so it's fine.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm in the right place then. And, with Wi-Fi, I think there's just so much subtlety to this job and to people that there is a little bit of witchcraft involved, in my opinion. Just a little bit of reading between the lines and kind of understanding a bigger picture in a way that isn't tangible, I guess, if that makes sense.
That totally makes sense to us. I recall back when we first got married, we were trying to buy our home, and it was really interesting because it was back in 2008 when the market was wild. And we ended up getting a really good deal because the unfortunate part is it was owned by a family who was in a divorce, and the house was a part of their community property. So they sold it at truly a loss. It was our gain. Which was really wild. So I totally understand that therapy piece, because when you're signing on the dotted line for that big old price tag, you're like, oh my Lord, I don't know if we can do this.
Terrifying.
It is absolutely terrifying, but I think it's so cool when people that whole American dream of home ownership is something that is just so deeply rooted in our DNA as a country. But I would love to know what drew you in to real estate at first, and then kind of talk to us about your journey of thinking about all the different ways you're doing the therapy and the witchcraft that you do so well.
I was at a crossroads in my life where I was in my early 30s and going, what the hell am I going to do with my life? And how am I here again? And an old friend was like, I think you should get into real estate. You'd be really good at it. I would mentor you. You would love it. And at first I was like, don't tell me what to do. like a brat. Yeah. And she was like, no, for reals. And it's really rare because most people are like, oh my God, I totally want to be a realtor. And they have this image of what being a realtor is. And it's wrong. And they want to get in, and it's really hard to find a mentor, and it's really hard to get started. And so I had a huge advantage with my friend being like, I will mentor you. I'd already been friends with her for so long, and we'd gone on vacations together, and I would hear her working, because real estate is 24/7, unfortunately. And so I already kind of had a decent grasp on what the realities of it were, instead of the, selling sunset version, which wasn't around then, but yeah, like that. I was really lucky in that I surrounded myself with really incredible, honestly, all women realtors that took me under their wing. And I saw how hard they worked. First handful of deals, I was seeing how people were reacting to different things and how stressed out they were, how they were, acting with their partners and a parent that's involved and kids. And I realized really quickly that it is so much more than the house. The house is kind of a secondary thing. It's really about the people. And it's about, for me, for instance, all of a sudden someone that communicates really, really well is taking a little bit longer and their answers are shorter. And I'm like, ooh, they're having a freak out. And then I reach out. I'm like, let's talk. You're not telling me something. You're freaking out. I can tell just by changing communication. Let's jump on the phone and let's talk it through. Just so it's pretty obvious pretty early on for me that this really had to do with people and their pasts and their futures and their hopes and their dreams and their fears. And it brings up so much. Also, I've been through a lot of counseling, and I really
Yeah.
applied all of those tools that I've learned into this job, thank God. So
Yeah.
it really is a lot of that, of like, okay, it's okay. Like, take a breath. Now
Yes.
let's talk it through.
Yeah, just so you know, my wife would have been the one that would be having the freak out
Oh,
moments when
thank you,
we're
Brian.
talking about it. I'm just saying, I was able to keep the stability. Yeah, backing it up.
Oh, honey, he lives on that bus. He lives in that bus and he drives over me regularly. So that's normal. That's what 20 years of marriage
Well,
does for you.
oh yeah, I can only imagine.
She cracked me up when we got our house in 2018. It was a hell of a deal, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity when the market crashed and we weren't selling, so we were just buying. We didn't have to worry about losing money. When did we buy this current house?
This house in 2018.
So 2018, we bought a new house. So 10 years later, and this house is much smaller than our older house, but it was more expensive.
More expensive. And let me tell you how pissed off I was. Let me tell you how pissed off I was.
Yeah, so our other home was our first home, our first purchase, but just the economy and the market, you kind of roll with the
10
punches.
years.
Yeah.
10 years, that appreciation, it's no joke.
Yeah.
It is no joke.
Yeah.
But going back to like, oh, this is the person that was freaking out, this is the person that was calm. Like, I tell my folks so much because there's so many, I have all these little sayings I say over and over again. But one of the things that I say is, in a couple, there's almost always someone who's the gas and someone who's the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
And that person isn't always the same person, but a lot of the times, like, and I always say, like, if there's two brakes, you're never going to go anywhere. If there's two gas, you're going to run into a wall. So although that that conflict, that friction between the gas and the brakes can feel frustrating, it's a good thing. It keeps you all stable, keeps you at a steady rate. And so the person that's freaking out and the person that's calm, like, it does balance. It's a good balance, which doesn't always feel that way.
I totally agree. And just so our listeners know, I've had my freak out moments too, and my wife is very much pumping the brakes for me. So it is a mutually beneficial thing. You described our relationship perfectly.
I will be sending you my counseling bill right after the
seriously,
podcast.
girl. Yes, that's exactly right. You just earned your check right there. I tell you, you have. Something you said just really struck me. You're talking about people are buying a home, whatever. They're bringing in all of their fears, their worries, anything that happened to their family members, anything that transpired about buying a house with them. Because I think about, too, my grandmother was born in 1914, right? So, I'm African American. So you have to imagine the life that my grandma led when she was a young person. I mean, she worked in cotton fields. She worked in homes as a maid, and a nanny, and a cook. But she was able to buy her first home way later in life, and it was something that was so important to her because it was something she didn't think she was ever going to be able to do. Oh, it was huge.
Yeah.
It was a
Holy
huge
crap.
deal. It was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And that was something that I always thought about in home ownership. And that's something that I think is so important, that you say that real estate isn't neutral. And I think it's so important that we talk about and unpack that a little bit, because it's not. And for people who've never really thought about that, like, what does that actually mean in real life, that real estate isn't neutral? What does that mean to you?
Any economic advantage is been held back from everybody that's not a straight white guy for millennia. And so the fact that, for instance, women weren't allowed to get mortgages on their own, I think, until like the 70s.
Yep, that's correct.
And credit cards as well.
In general, it's wild. Like, it's within our generation.
Yeah.
Single women, for instance, are the highest rate of homeowners right now, for instance. And both laws and practices that have kept African Americans and just people of color in general from home ownership is historically so intense. Also, historically, like, owning a home is your first kind of pillar in that foundation of wealth.
Yep.
And then to literally keep it from the vast majority of the population is not neutral. That's a violent act.
Yep.
In my opinion, I mean, I'm going to go so far as to say that I think that housing should be a human right, and we should all that should be part of the thing that we should have. Universal health care and housing, and that's something that we should have. And if you want a bigger house than is provided, great, you can do that too, but as a base. And so housing is security. I grew up pretty housing insecure as a kid. and having the space that is yours and can't be taken away from you for the most part is such a revolutionary act to a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it was to your grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
of like, this is mine and worked and worked
Yes.
my fingers to the bone. It is a revolutionary act to be able for so much of the population to own real estate. And it's still discriminated against.
Yes.
It's not like we're past, we're not post racism, we're not post feminism, we're still in it. And so even today, it's such a beautiful thing when I can get marginalized communities into housing. Like I'm
Yeah.
so passionate about it.
Yeah. No, I love that you're doing that and you're doing the work on that. I think here in Columbus, and I know you're in Portland, so I'll ask you a question about that in a second. But here in Columbus, we have a lot of growth economically right now, but we don't have enough affordable housing for the mass populations, right? So we're like a lot of this country, very much the haves and the have-nots are very much a divided line. And one of the things that we are seeing more is even when people come in, the private equity folks, they come in and they buy entire neighborhoods. And it's
That's
making it
insane.
impossible for people to, thinking about a starter home. Starter homes here are about $300,000.
And that's reasonable.
And that's reasonable.
Yeah.
In the United States.
In the United States. But you're also talking about our minimum wage is, or what is living, it's not
The
even
cost of
living
living
wage,
in
the cost
general.
of living wage in general.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah.
at max, minimum is like, $10 an hour, $12 an hour, $15 an hour. So you're going to be house poor very quickly.
Yeah.
Very,
Or
very
if you
quickly.
can even afford it in the first place.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
So when you think about that, and I know we've had even some areas here that have had restrictive covenants for many, 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 many years, and we're still feeling the effects of that. So when people talk about the great wealth transfer, especially with real estate, it doesn't look like Black and brown people. It just doesn't. It doesn't.
Well, how can it be if Black and brown people have been excluded for generations? Housing is such an important part of generational wealth, right? And the great wealth transfer has a lot to do with housing. It has to do with real estate. It has to do with all this stuff. And if you have, the obvious is, if I, as a white woman, have had 2 generations, 3 generations of my ancestors being able to own property. And then that is passed down to each generation, and each generation is able to leverage that a little bit better, then yeah, it might not be a ton, but at least it's stability for me. Whereas if your grandmother didn't buy her first house until the 60s, that's very different. And so you need that time and that accumulation for generational wealth specifically. It's not just one generation, it's many generations. And of course, that's not going to look the same with the great wealth transfer if your family and your ancestors were excluded from it for generations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And not to mention the entire country built on their backs.
Correct.
And all that stuff, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, we can get into reparations and all that shit, but just specifically the division of the have and have nots, like that's something that through the pandemic was the starkest thing for me.
Yeah.
Is that division got so much wider, so much quicker than I ever imagined, and it's only increased. And I feel it so hard. And in Portland, we don't have the private equity buying up things like that. That's nuts that they buy whole neighborhoods.
It's
and
insane.
It's not okay. And it should, that there literally, I hope there will someday be laws against that, because single family and family housing should be for families. Fuck right off.
Correct.
Sorry, I'm not supposed to cuss, I'm sure.
Oh, girl, please listen.
Okay, good.
Listen, if you come to this house, your ears will be bleeding, honey. If fuck ain't my favorite word, I don't know what is.
Amazing. Oh my, I'm in the right place. I come from commercial fishing. I am the worst potty mouth in the world. I'm really trying to play it cool here.
Be you, girl. Be you.
Okay, good. So there's nothing affordable about housing. That's just the long and short of it. You could have even above a minimum wage job. And, as we all know, one horrible medical event that you don't have the correct insurance for, and you're going to be sleeping in your car.
Exactly.
Like, that's the reality of it. What is it? It's like 80% of Americans are one adverse event away from houselessness or something like that.
100%.
Like, it's nuts. It's so gnarly. And yeah, I don't have a solution.
Yeah.
I wish I did, other than, private equity should not be buying them up.
No.
And our taxes are currently funding an absolute horrible war, and that money could be spent on helping people instead of hurting people.
I don't know how it is in Portland, but here in Columbus, you hear people say, oh, it's a black community or it's a black and brown community or whatever, but they never ask why is that a black or brown community. And we were talking about the covenants prior to that. And in Columbus, if you look at our redlining areas in Columbus in the early 1900s, you can literally take a map of today's Columbus and still see that those areas are the poor communities where people are living.
Yeah.
And ironically, those are the same communities in which now these big corporate entities are going into and buying entire streets
and gentrifying
the community. Like, it's a win-win for these people. They don't, like, they're not getting a break for anybody in these poor communities to be able to build up their own wealth without having these disruptions all the time. Do you find that is something that happens in Portland? Did you have redlining in Portland?
It happens everywhere. Like I said, we don't really have it's not that private equity isn't here, but it's just not at that level. Like, it's pretty rare for that to happen. We have, the redlining, the covenants, like the white flight that happened. It's so interesting. Like, in Portland, white flight happened after the war. And then there's like a specific neighborhood in Portland that the black and brown communities had actually moved to after this levee broke and there was this flood in this huge community called Vanport. They moved over to a different community and they started building this incredible community. And then all of a sudden the city was like, hey, P.S., we want that for a freeway and a hospital. So eminent domain, get the hell out.
Ooh,
also,
it never runs through a wealthy neighborhood for some reason. It's amazing how that works.
So I also live in what used to be historically black neighborhood in a house that was owned by a black family for 50 years. And I actually was like, do I buy this house? It feels weird. All my friends were like, it's going to be someone, might as well be you. And I was like, okay. But the gentrification is real. It just continues as everything goes up. And a lot of the time what we see is elderly, specifically black elderly in Portland, it was very few specific black neighborhoods. And a bunch of people were either pushed out or they moved out and then they could never get back in. And then there's these folks that have been there forever and they, they're elderly. They can't take care of their house. And then their new white neighbor has a complaint to the city that their yard is overgrown and then they can't take care of it. And then the fines add up and then they add up and then they snowball. And then all of a sudden their house is getting taken away because instead of going and talking to your neighbor and being like, Mrs. Jones, do you need a hand?
Right.
Exactly.
Like, you look like you need a hand. Let me help you out. Like, they just call the city. All of gentrification and redlining and honestly, the fuckery breaks up communities. Community is what makes people healthy.
That's
truly.
Exactly right.
Like, truly, truly, truly. In the George Floyd protests, a friend of mine, Randall Wyatt, was looking around and being like, what the hell do I do? And he started this incredible organization that you guys should look up called Taking Ownership. Oh, it's so good. So basically he was like, he raised a bunch of money really quickly. I basically was like, oh, I'm good at raising money. And so I made all my realtors donate. I was like, hey, this is a way to be reparations. So you're making a ton of money. You should give money to this. Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. I'm very persistent.
I love that about you, Lauren.
And so what Taking Ownership does, it finds black Portlanders and repairs their houses.
Wow. That's so cool.
Goes and repairs a roof. And they started working with the city and being like, yo, these fines are bullshit. We're going to clean up their yard. We're going to deal with the issue. But you, as a city, if you give a shit, you will be erasing those fines now.
That's right.
I mean, there's so many things that they do. There's another wing to it. It takes folks with generational wealth that basically are like, I'm going to gift someone the equity in a house that I own and sell it to them for whatever small amount is owed on the loan or something like that.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's really fascinating.
It's really fascinating to Black, Brown, and Indigenous Portlanders. Oh my God, it's amazing. I think he's like taking ownership as getting into some African American museum or something. I am
That's
getting
great.
these details so wrong, and I'm sure someone's going to call me out on it. But it's so fascinating, and it's like such a tangible way to keep people in their homes, in their neighborhoods.
Yeah.
That's great.
I love that.
Don't ever move to a red
Yeah.
state, girl. I'm telling you.
Listen, honey.
I couldn't. I literally couldn't. I would probably just burn upon entry.
Listen, yeah, I feel very combustion oriented right now too. It's real facts. It's real facts. I love, what you're talking about. And gosh, I wish they could do that here, and maybe somebody will. And so we will take an ownership, and we'll put that in our show notes for people to be able to look up for themselves. But one of the things you talk about a lot is ethical real estate. What does that really look like in practice? Because I think a lot of times it's really easy and people could just show up. We talk about being neutral, like, oh, I don't want to make waves, or we call it Midwest nice here. Well, we don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. Like, yeah, but there's some real life uncomfortable shit happening to a lot of people. So what are you going to do about it?
I mean, that's that exact poem, at first they came for the communists and I said nothing. And, well, like that poem is there for a reason, and it's happening again. And it happens. It's not that it's not happening. It's been happening the whole time in different parts of the world.
Right.
And neutrality is like, I'm not going to say anything. Neutrality is bullshit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who the hell is neutral?
No
Sorry.
one. No one.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
I think that the people that are saying that they're neutral aren't. They're just cowards.
Agreed.
And they may think they're neutral, but by saying nothing, oftentimes they're louder than if they would have actually said something.
Amen.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah. And
exactly that. And like, yeah, there's just no neutrality, and quietness in any time of strife is pretty freaking loud.
Yeah. That's exactly right. It's funny. One of the things that you say a lot of sayings a lot, and I say a ton of them. I got roasted for my 47th birthday. It was fantastic. All the things that I say, and I love it. But one of the things that I often say is that the opposite of love is not hate. It's apathy. Because to me, with hate, there's still passion, there's still engagement, there's still actions that are taken. When you're apathetic, you just don't give a fuck, and you don't care.
No.
And you just put your head in the sand and you keep going, and you are literally letting people die in front of you, but you don't care. And that's a problem for me. That's a real problem for me.
I am very lucky in Portland that I am in such a, we're known for our progressiveness, good or bad. And so I am really lucky in that I haven't really had any necessarily bad repercussions or negative from me being so outspoken, because I mean, one, I was raised that way. Like, it is what it is. Like, I don't, I just don't feel like I have a choice. Like, I am outspoken. I have to speak up. My sister has Down syndrome, and I think it kind of started with like, she was 4 years younger than me. So in elementary school, we went to the same elementary school, just seeing how people treated her, and like if they bullied her or if they were just like weird or something, like that just kind of very early on instructed me on how to kind of keep an eye out for folks that might not be able to do that for themselves.
Yeah.
And I have been very lucky in that I kind of have always been outspoken in this job, and it's only been positive for me, which I know that it's because of where I am. I have friends in deep Florida that definitely don't have that experience.
Right.
For sure. And they're not, I'm very lucky in that I get to be a little choosy. I don't work with people who aren't values aligned with me. There's plenty of other people that I really want to work hard for. And if there's some Trumper out there that wants me to help, I'm like, I don't want your success.
Right.
You don't want success for the people I love.
Right.
Why would I help you?
Right. No, and I love that, because we've made that decision ourselves too. We don't work with people who are not value aligned with us, and that's a big deal, because that's what we figure. There's not a whole lot in the world we can control. We can control that. We can control where our dollars go. We can control, who we choose to support, those kind of things. So absolutely, I'm 100% on board with what you're saying.
And we have to be, because we got an interracial marriage. We got 2 kids in the LGBTQ community, and one of our kids is trans. Like, we cover a lot of area.
Oh, you have to.
So we have to protect, when we make decisions, oftentimes it's to protect our children.
100%.
Yeah. And lately I've just been very much like, let's get away from patriarchal and get into matriarchal. And to me, the biggest difference there is the move from me to we.
Mm-hmm.
And I just keep thinking about that. If we just keep thinking about we instead of me,
Yeah.
we're going to be so much better. And things that don't just benefit you,
Right.
things that benefit everybody.
Right.
Like, and that is what keeps sticking over and over to me, is like, what's going to benefit the greater good? What's going to benefit community? What's going to benefit the people I love the most? And that's what I just keep is kind of my touchstone these days.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's amazing. And, you are impressive on so many levels. And I'm so grateful that you are who you
Or
are.
I can
You're
just talk
here.
a lot.
Girl, listen, you met your match because your girl is just like that, too. My husband's over here like,
I'm just trying to get a word in edgewise.
Those are
Good luck.
facts. Exactly. Exactly. So, no, I love this so much. And we definitely appreciate hearing your point of view. We talk about in our show, everything's not black and white because there's a lot of gray areas and places. But, we're very much black and white about who we choose to support and who we don't. So that part's very clear, but when you start talking about the whole idea of home ownership, wealth distribution, those kind of things are just hit us really, really powerfully because we look at our children now. Our oldest is thinking about getting married and buying a home. Literally, they're starting at $350 minimum, and it's not even
but
like
the fact
a big
that you
house.
can even, we can't even. I mean, a $350 house would be. I would probably be like, do not buy that. It is haunted, falling into the ground, and like possibly in a vortex. Like our average in Portland, I think, is like 610 or something.
Ooh,
Yeah.
child.
That's it's no joke. It is really, really brutal. Brutal.
It's really hard.
And I just like, what are these next generations going to do? These poor babies.
Yeah, they're going to move back in with their parents because the hell, that's what I would do.
We're still trying to get one out.
Yeah.
I would do that too.
Well, exactly. And that's the thing is like, I mean, I know we're kind of getting to the end here but I'm just like, will someone start building really good multi-generational houses and no one's doing it? And I'm like, I can sell those until I'm blue in the face.
Yep.
The need for that. And not just multi-generational, it's back to community, like friends buying with friends, single moms buying with each other so they can help raise their kids together. There's so much need for more communal living or community living, and it's just not being built like it needs to be.
Yeah, I think it's going to force our hand where households are going to be like that. I don't know what other option there is where salaries are not going up to offset the difference.
Nope.
Yeah.
And everything else is going up. Yeah. So that's just wild, wild stuff. Well, Lauren, if people want to get in touch with you, follow you, or just be in your orbit, because I'm feeling like I'm one of those people. How can they get in touch with you?
I think the best way is Instagram. I'm all up in Instagram's business all the time, and I'm always posting tips and tricks, and my dogs, and I'll wax philosophical once in a while. So I would say, and it's just my name at Lauren Goché. I would say that's probably the easiest. My website, if you feel like reading some blogs about real estate and sometimes not about real estate, it's laurengoché.com. I think those are the highlights there.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I definitely want to make sure we're going to put that out there in the notes and let people know how to get in touch with you, because I just think you're such a fascinating person, and I could just literally talk to you all day and hear your point of view. So thank you so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate it.
It's my absolute pleasure. I'm so honored to be asked and to be included, and you guys seem like a blast, and I'm excited to connect with you guys online too.
Thank you. Well, we absolutely will. Well, Brian, that's a great segue for you. How can people connect with us online?
Sure. They can follow us on Facebook or Instagram, or you can actually email us at embwpodcast@gmail.com.
That sounds fabulous. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you for being with us, Lauren. We will see you all next episode. Bye, everybody.
See you.
Bye.